Good evening, traders. Zach here with the Trading Network. I hope you guys are doing well and that you have enjoyed the nice long weekend. I am back with yet another weekly market profile forecast for both the ES and NQ futures markets. So we are going to waste no time. For those of you guys new to this video series, for those of you guys new to the channel, first and foremost, welcome. If you find value in this content, I would greatly appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and click that bell notification to be notified every single time we post videos here on the channel. Now, with that said, for those of you guys new to what we do here on these weekly market profile forecasts, we go over major inflection points and the overall analysis that I will be looking at and paying attention to moving forward into the week. Now, we focus on ES and NQ futures, and I will be giving you guys major levels to pay attention to, which will very likely offer up high probability trade opportunity and at the very least, great reaction to or around these levels. So we are going to start off with the ES session profile here. You guys can see that we have a very important area at 42.27. That is the high from May 18th overnight profile. 225 is the high from the 19th regular trading hour session, and that flipped to very close to the low from the most recent overnight session, as well as Friday's high at 42.21. So what I'm going to be looking at, if you guys are familiar with these videos, you will not be surprised to hear me say this, but I will be looking at or looking for reaction to Friday's high at 42.21 on ES. And if we can hold this level, I mean, if we can really even hold 4,200, I will be looking for further upside moving into this coming week. Now, we must hold above this 42.21 and do business above that level in order for me to remain bullish, but I will say so far the structure looks pretty darn good. Now, what I will say on the downside, if we do not get acceptance and hold above Friday's high, we have a lot of very thin structure moving down into the rest of Friday's profile. So basically a break below 4,200, I think is very likely that we get a pretty substantial push down into this session or the session profile from the 25th of May. Now you can see here we have the high from the 25th of May at 41.75 and we have the low from the 26th of May, that's Friday, at 41.65. So if we move back below this area, we're going to be taking out two naked point of controls, and we also have a third naked POC from Wednesday's session last week, which is May 24th, right? So we do have a lot of ground to cover on the downside. We do have a lot of very important areas that there are very likely a lot of liquidity sitting at, right? So just to kind of close that thought or help it make sense to you guys, price gravitates towards areas where there are a lot of orders. So when I say a lot of liquidity, that is exactly what I'm referring to. When we have these naked POCs that are printed, that means that this level right here was the most, what was where the most price action took place in this entire session, right? 41.25. Same thing right here. This is where the most price action took place, the most transactions in this entire session on the 25th, right? So at these levels, they are point of controls that have been established, but we have not moved back down and touched these levels since those POCs were established. So price is very likely, if we do see downside pressure, to gravitate towards those naked point of controls. Now, I will say be very careful getting attached to these naked POCs. Yes, they will offer up great opportunity as targets, especially, you know, if we get a break with below 42.20, pretty good chance we're going to get a nice short opportunity, at least down to 42.10, right? So that's how I would treat it. I wouldn't say, you know, just because this breaks, we're going to this one, just because this breaks, we're going to this one. We have to take things one level at a time and make sure that we are patient and not getting too strongly biased on either direction. But naked POCs in general are great targets because price will gravitate towards them if the market environment is supporting that, I think, is the best way to think about it. So with that said, break below 42.20, break below 42.10. I think we very likely are testing Friday's value low at 41.98, and then some of these lower levels from earlier in last week's session, 75, 71, 65, naked POC at 58, etc. So that should give you guys, at the very least, some good levels to pay attention to on a session profile basis. And even if you guys are not, or I'll say it like this, especially if you guys are not using the profile yet, mark off these levels and watch how price reacts to them. And I bet you'll be using the profile pretty soon after that. So with that said, let's look at the weekly profile. It's not as exciting as a session profile, in my opinion, because you can see that we have a very clear established range. Even if we just draw it like this, I mean, ES is not nearly as directionally convicted as NQ at the moment, I would say. Yes, ES is holding up at the highs, but when I move over to NQ, you guys will see what I mean, as NQ has basically been broken out of this weekly range for a lot longer than ES. So ES is a little bit more inconclusive, indecisive. With that said, same analysis really holds true. If we can hold above these prior highs from last week, basically call it 42.20, acceptance and price sitting above 42.20 for a long amount of time is indicating that there are large time frame players that are willing and interested in buying at those levels, right? Think about this from an auction theory perspective, which is the basis of market profile. Price could not sit above 42.25 for a long period of time if there was not substantial buying, right? If it was just strong selling up there and there were no buyers interested in purchasing this instrument at those high levels, price would quickly move back below those highs. So look for, and that is why I always talk about acceptance versus rejection, because that is truly the cornerstone of auction market theory. And that is how we can understand how large time frame players are viewing these levels. If they are viewing a level as a fair price to buy or even a cheap price to buy, well, then it's a very good chance that you see price get accepted and sit above a certain level. So that's why I always will talk about that. That's why I'll always look to see how long does price stay above a certain area. That is very important information that not a lot of people, especially people that don't use the profile, are using to their advantage. So watch for acceptance. If we get rejection, look for a move down to 4,200, 4,195, and I would even say 70, 75, 70-ish and lower if we can't hold 41.95 especially. So that is really the story on ES. Pretty simple. We're just going to have to be patient. And I want you guys to keep in mind that behavior is changing, right? There is a high probability that we are going to continue upside macro trending pressure if we get acceptance above these prior highs, levels that we have not visited in basically a year. So I want you to keep that in mind. Do not, or I would strongly suggest reconsidering just trying to catch the top everywhere if we're in an uptrend, whether that's on a daily basis, in an intraday time frame or intraday trader perspective, or whether you're trading macro, right? Be careful and pay attention to the market context. I learned my most difficult lessons in trading not paying attention to market context, which means I lost the most money back in the day not understanding that the market environment has changed, right? I basically tried to just continue to long a very clear downtrend over and over again and didn't realize that something has changed. And I think that there are currently a lot of people trying to short a macro uptrend after behavior has clearly changed. I mean, behavior changed basically in January when we printed a higher low on the weekly chart, which I'll show you guys in just a little bit here. But before I go on too much of a tangent, I just wanted to kind of plant that seed and tell you guys to be patient and really keep the context in mind. Context is everything as a trader, truly. So with that said, let's pop on over to the NQ session profile. Similar vibes on ES. I mean, pretty darn bullish, right? But you can see here, we also have a naked POC from Friday, 14,326. So I would really like to see, 14,000 hold when it comes down to it. We could come all the way back down, in my opinion, to 14K, test these highs, right? Look at all these session highs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 session highs. And this is a support resistance flip turned into Friday's low. So we could come all the way back down to 14,000. And as long as we accept that area as support, we are still very bullish on a macro perspective. So keep that in mind. I would not be surprised to see, some profit taking at these levels. But, once again, don't get too biased. What I want to point out again is the weak structure, the thin structure in the profile here from Friday. So you can see we have these single prints basically starting at 14,218. If we get some stronger selling and we push below 14,218-ish, look for a move, I would say at least to 14,130. And then if we break 110 back to the downside, I would look for a retest of Friday's low, 14,014, which also lines up with Thursday's value high, 14,012, Thursday's high at 1431, and then the overnight high from Thursday into Friday at 14,044. And I'm saying this because even though we are indeed changing, or we have changed macro environment wise, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be large sell-offs. Even if we have put the bottom in for the next 2 years, you're going to see some very strong sell-offs and some rebalancing of liquidity, which is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Once again, we could come all the way back down, basically 400 points, and still be extremely bullish on a macro perspective. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying to look for selling pressure. I'm saying if 14,326 breaks to the downside, probably look for a move down to 14.2. If 14.2 breaks to the downside, probably look for a move to like 14,050-ish. But I mean, that's not me being bearish. That's just me analyzing the market structure. And you can see how clear this is. I mean, look at this clear resistance that then just absolutely got shredded through on Friday. And if you guys were trading Friday, I said I wasn't going to trade Friday, and I was on the stream, I was talking to everybody in the chat, and man, there were some amazing setups. So I did indeed, with some smaller size, take some trades, right? And when or if I'm sitting in front of the computer and my A+ setup presents itself and I'm in the right frame of mind, it is my job. It is truly my duty to capitalize on it. And that's exactly what I did. So with that said, I'll show you guys the NQ weekly profile. This is exactly what I mean. So just glancing at ES, right? Very, very tight, pretty clear range, indecision. Now, if we look at NQ, range, boom, takeoff, okay? So NQ, in my opinion, tech stocks are basically, I mean, just ripping face to the upside. So NQ has been pulling ES and kind of, pulling ES out of the depths of the range, in my opinion. And if that continues, this is what we are likely to see. NQ, very interestingly, has been the leader over the past, at least 3 weeks. At least 3 weeks. You can see this 1, 2, 3 past weekly profiles. Soon as we broke above this 13.3, 13.4K level, it's been a 1,000-point move in the last 3 weeks. So incredible opportunity, whether you are an intraday trader, whether you are a macro trader, options trader, equities trader, doesn't matter. There is amazing opportunity in the market right now, and we are being rewarded for being patient, basically the past 2 to 3 months when we've had tight, choppy, rangy, indecisive price action. So I am looking forward to continuing to get some of this price action. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we never know what's going to happen. But I do think that we have kind of turned over a new leaf in regards to the macro environment, and the volatility is, based on Friday's session, it's coming back. So my thoughts overall for ES and NQ on the weekly profile basis, basically going to be watching and seeing what kind of reaction we get to last week's high. A break below last week's high, especially a break below, on the weekly profile, break below 14.2K likely gets us, 150 to 200 point move to the downside to retest last week's value high. And once again, we could come all the way back down here. We could come all the way back down here to like 13,930-ish, or even tap last week's POC, 13.9K, and still hold bullish structure. So keep that in mind, stay flexible, and just watch what happens at these levels. If you are using something like the Trading Network proprietary indicator package, you can mark off these levels, and you can use these levels in combination with your other tools. You see bullish divergence, a higher low, great candlestick structure, great oscillator structure at or around these profile levels, boom, there's your setup right there. So that is a little bit of game, free game, I might add, that you guys can take into this week and use to your advantage. It is a short week, so, just as always, manage your risk first and foremost, and the P&L will follow. That's what it's all about. So let's hop on over to the weekly candlestick charts real quick. I'll show you guys what I'm thinking, and we will wrap things up. All right, friends. So I have the NQ weekly chart pulled up here. Been talking about this for a very long time. Structure is absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. We just broke above this level that I was talking about in my last weekly market profile video from last Sunday. 1460 got a beautiful push up to, look at this. And I was talking about this level too in my last video, believe it or not. Go back and look if you're curious. This basically 14.4K level. This was a swing high back from April of 2021, right? Price just revisits old levels. That is exactly how price works. That is how the market operates. Now, what I would be looking for further upside is I'll be looking for a move to about 14,700 if we do get continued upside pressure this week. Swing high from April 2022 swing low from October 2021. So that's my next upside target on a more macro vibe. And, you know, if we do get selling pressure, I would, you know, expect to see a retest once again of this swing high right here from August 22nd, August 2022. And that is, once again, a major level that I've been talking about for a very long time. We pushed above it. I think it would be pretty orderly to come back, see a retest of this level, and then see if price can base off of there. But I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, price could come all the way back down here. I mean, this is really our last local low, all the way down here at like 12,000, right? So you guys want to experience something really brutal, which is not out of the question. I mean, we could come back down here, put in a higher low, and keep going, right? So stay patient, stay flexible, because anything can happen, and NQ is capable of a lot. So I just want to point these scenarios out to you guys. Upside, once again, I'll be looking for a move this week to 14.7K. Downside, I mean, a retest of more reasonable retest would be of this, the top of this prior swing high, 14,081. This body at basically 13,950-ish. And then further downside, I'd be looking, I mean, 1,000 points down, honestly. So those are just, you know, some mental masturbation levels, if you will. I think the 14.7, those closest levels, right, that we were talking about both in the profile where we have confluence there. Boom. Boom right here, 14.2. 14.2 to the downside, 14.50 to the downside, and then 14.650 and 14.7K. That's what I would be looking at. So let's move on over to ES very briefly here. Similar vibes, but I'll give you guys some targets for my ES traders. And upside, I would say first upside target that I'm looking at on ES, swing high from May 2021, also swing high from May 2022. That's interesting. And that level is 4290-ish on ES. So about a 70 point move from where we currently are. On the downside, I think, you know, I've mentioned these levels from the profile earlier, but I just want to show you guys the confluence between the candlestick chart and the market profile analysis as well. So downside 4185-ish, and then probably like 4120-ish is what I would be looking at. And once again, you know, until or unless structure really changes drastically, we are now in a macro uptrend, and I would not consider anything otherwise until we break, you know, at least like 4,000 or 3,900 to the downside on ES. So that is my story. That is my plan for the week. Those are the areas that I will be looking out for. I think we're going to have some amazing opportunity this week as long as we are able to stay patient, capitalize on the opportunity by waiting for price to come to our levels and show us exactly what we need to see to have an A+ setup. So with that said, if you guys find this content valuable, I would greatly appreciate it one more time if you would like, subscribe, and click that bell notification to be notified every single time we post videos here on the channel. If you guys want to learn more about what we do here at The Trading Network, check out our website, thetradingnetwork.io, where you can purchase access to our most popular product, the Pro Trader Bundle, which is actually on sale for about the next 5 hours. You will get 15% off with the code TTN15, no spaces, all caps, for Memorial Day. So once again, if you guys have been on the fence, waiting to join the community, now is a great time. There's about 5 hours left in the sale. It will end at midnight Eastern time tonight. So take advantage of that, and I hope to see a lot more of you guys in the community. If you are looking for a little bit more of a tailored or one-on-one catered experience to your strengths and weaknesses as a trader, I also offer one-on-one mentorship. You can book a free 15-minute consultation with me down below to chat with me for a little bit to see if mentorship would be a good fit for you. And if you guys have any questions about anything that I have mentioned in this video or any of the products we offer, shoot us an email at info@thetradingnetwork.io or shoot us a DM on Instagram, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. I appreciate you guys very much. I hope you had, once again, an excellent long weekend, and let us make it a great week this week. Cheers.